She knew what she was going to do. She was going to be a big star.
LeAnn. She shot off like a rocket ship because she was so young.
Just this little tiny girl, I had no idea what was going on around me.
We were on a fast train and trying to keep up.
What's it like to be 14 years old and already win a Grammy?
After her Grammy, the world changed for her.
LeAnn.
If you're seen on Sunset Strip drinking, it's not necessarily the country image that you want to portray.
LeAnn wanted this career more than her next breath.
I thought we were gonna go out.
LeAnn Rimes, now on Biography.
Song with that range and the control of her voice.
It was like, wow, who is this? This little girl singing like this. It was kind of otherworldly to hear her voice coming out of someone that young.
LeAnn just was on fire. I mean, it was like she knew what she was going to do, and she had the talent to back it up.
Now, the new LeAnn Rimes is all grown up and back on top. With an album that's heating up the country music charts and a marriage that survived the pressures of celebrity.
I think that's probably my biggest accomplishment, is being able to have such a wonderful marriage and be still very, very happy and satisfied, and as a woman and as a wife, and it's fun.
That's good. Where is it?
In the fish zone!
Confident and finally happy, LeAnn has been writing her own songs. And this time, her fans are ready to hear what this woman has to say.
I just think it's dragging right now because it's just, we're trying to get a feel for everything. I mean, I think it does really need to pick up.
I've been blessed with a voice. I think everybody knows that I have a voice, but it's what else is there behind that now, and I think my writing is what's behind that, and what I have to say is gonna be very, very powerful.
A lot of people still think of her as that little girl from 10 years ago with the unbelievable voice. She was always in the spotlight, always on the road, but she was still just a child with a grown-up career.
LeAnn, how was your show? It was wonderful. We had a lot of fun with the fans today. It's good to be back.
LeAnn Rimes is the young woman with the great big voice.
Do the musicians and people like Winona, do they treat you as an adult?
You're Rent-A-Bus,
This is not Rent-A-Bus.
This is very cool.
It finally became so overwhelming that she had to stop and take stock of her life.
I was constantly working, on the road, never at home. That's a tough thing to deal with at that age. But it became my life, and I got burnt out really quick. I took a break for a second and wanted to just kind of find out who I was and be a kid for a second.
She was a teenager. She didn't just want to hit the road and stay there for the rest of her life, so she moved to LA.
I wanted to explore acting, and I wanted to explore the big city.
In LA, LeAnn turned 16 and embraced the big city life. She was rumored to be buying alcohol, going on designer spending sprees, and even dating a Hollywood actor, Andrew Keegan. Back in Nashville, tongues were wagging.
Anytime a country star lands in the gossip columns and not the country gossip columns, it's not a good thing, regardless of what they're doing, because it's obviously something that she shouldn't be doing. That was the main thing, I think, with LeAnn. God bless her.
It's tough to be the all-American girl next door. I was exploring womanhood, and I wanted to wear sexier clothes, and I wanted to sing different songs. You know, you're under scrutiny constantly for everything that you're doing, so it was tough.
LeAnn was also exploring a new world musically, but some critics and fans wondered if their country sweetheart had gone pop.
For a while there, people weren't sure who LeAnn Rimes was. Was she a country singer? Was she dabbling in everything else? Was she sincere about what she was trying to do?
She went from an artist that was selling 5-6 million copies on an album, maybe had sold 20 million albums, to an artist that was virtually starting over.
If her new music shook things up, what LeAnn did next really shocked everyone. In 2000, the 18-year-old singer sued her father Wilbur, who had produced her early albums and managed her career. She accused him of pocketing millions of dollars of her money. Wilbur Rimes countersued, charging that his daughter was spoiled and wasteful.
LeAnn's father's lawsuit said that LeAnn was squandering money. It said that she wrecked her Bentley that was worth $350,000. At the same time, her boyfriend, Andrew Keegan, wrecked her Ferrari.
Her career at that point was really overshadowed by lawsuits, by family squabbles, and by tabloid headlines.
But off camera, the experience was intensely painful.
I think the parent should be there to watch over their child as a parent, not as someone who makes money off of their kid. The hardest part of the whole thing was that I didn't have my dad as my dad for a long time. You know, that's all I wanted.
The spring of 2001 was a dark time for LeAnn, but she agreed to host the Academy of Country Music Awards, a demanding job that put her in the spotlight.
I was so nervous because I was hosting and I was dancing and I was singing and I was taking on this, you know, huge responsibility.
At rehearsals, one of the dancers couldn't help but notice how stressful it was for LeAnn.
She had a lot of things hanging around on her, and I could see she was really stressed out, and people were just really weighing down on her. I was just trying to say, hey, just relax, it's okay.
He whispered in my ear right before I went on stage. He said, you know, this is your night, don't let anyone take it away from you. And I was like, oh, he's so sweet.
The evening went off without a hitch. But LeAnn couldn't forget the dancer who had been so sweet, so she called him the next day. 2 weeks later, they had their first date and quickly fell for each other over takeout and TV.
Give that one a kiss.
His name's not Dean, I can't. I just had a lot of fun with him. He made me laugh really hard, and I think that's the main thing that I loved about him was how much fun he was.
Everything that I could have ever imagined in a woman or in anybody as a friend, she had all those qualities. And for that, I was like, this is it for me.
LeAnn, one of the first things out of her mouth was, I've met my best friend for life. And he made her laugh like no one had ever made her laugh. And that was definitely something she needed in her life at that time. They just connected in such a way. And of course she said, yes, he's hot.
After a whirlwind courtship of just 3 weeks, Dean popped the question.
It was so impromptu, and I would have never had it any other way. We had joked about, I said, I'm gonna marry this girl.
I said, okay, and I said, let's do it. Let's pick a date.
She's looking at me like, are you serious? And I'm kind of like, are you serious? And she decided she was going to the other room, and I followed her and just grabbed her hand and got down on one knee, and I said, Margaret LeAnn Rimes, will you be with me forever?
LeAnn was overjoyed, but the lightning-fast engagement left her family and friends stunned.
I was like shocked. And I said, well, now y'all haven't known each other that long. And she said, but Mom, I'm in love with him. And I said, are you sure? Y'all, you're so young.
On February 23, 2002, after 9 months of dating, 19-year-old LeAnn Rimes and 21-year-old Dean Chermet tied the knot in her hometown of Dallas. There was a surprise guest, Wilbur Rimes. Just days earlier, father and daughter had settled their bitter lawsuit in time for him to attend her wedding.
Her mother and father both stood beside her, and it was as it should be. And that was really, I think, what brought them back together. Is she's now saying, okay, I'm a woman. I've made this choice. I'm now going to be a married woman. I'm still your daughter. I'm still your child. And I now want to make sure that all the relationships in my life are important and maintained. So let's start over.
We had the father-daughter dance, which had everybody in tears, and my dad and I both were just bawling. And it was it was one of those moments where you knew everything was headed in the right direction of getting back to normal.
They have the most tremendous love for each other, and it was very important for him to be there.
It was Wilbur Rimes who had nurtured his daughter's talent when she was just a young child.
LeAnn's father has a wonderful voice, and he has a terrific ear for music.
LeAnn's father, Wilbur, is a talented singer, although he never pursued that as a career. But he had a great love of music, and it's been said that he had perfect pitch by people who had heard him sing. So I think that part of that is simply in her genes. But the rest is magic.
In many ways, LeAnn was a miracle child. Belinda and Wilbur Rhymes were high school sweethearts who'd gotten married young and tried unsuccessfully for years to have a baby.
And the specialist said that I would never have children. And I had been married 12 years, and one day I just sat down on the bed and I said, Lord, if you'll give me a child, I'll give that child back to you.
Margaret LeAnn Rhymes was born in Jackson, Mississippi on August 28, 1982. It quickly became clear that she was unusually gifted. At 18 months, she stunned everyone during a family gathering when she began belting out a hymn.
She was in her high chair, and she started singing Jesus Loves Me, and we were just amazed that she could actually enunciate as well as she could at that age.
I was very surprised that a child her age could remember the words to a song like she could, and could carry the tune to the song so well.
From that day on, the songs never stopped.
I don't even think she was 2. She was walking, not really talking, but singing. It was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. She could just turn it on and sing full songs before she could complete full sentences.
She would sing in her home, she would sing in church, she would sing at school, and she would wake up from a nap in the back seat of the car and just start singing.
And I would stand in front of people and sing, and if they didn't clap halfway through the song, I would say, clap for me, and if they didn't, I'd walk off. So as a kid, I mean, I just wanted attention, and I figured that's how I got it.
But no one realized how serious LeAnn was about performing until she entered her first talent contest when she was 5. Although she was younger than the other kids, she easily won with her song and tap dance routine.
And LeAnn came home with a 6-foot-tall trophy. It was 2 feet taller than she was. And her father sat her down and said, LeAnn, is this what you really want to do? And she said, yes, Daddy, I'm going to be a singer.
He said, okay, I'm going to dedicate myself to helping you. And he did, you know. He got his old guitar out, and he started working with her.
Her dad would order tapes, and she would learn the songs during the week as well as going to school. And then she would rehearse that every night at home in her bedroom.
LeAnn wanted this career more than her next breath. She knew what she was going to do. She was going to be a big star, and that's what she would tell you.
The family moved to Dallas, where the Rhymes booked their little girl anywhere they could, from rodeos to county fairs.
For a year now, I have said, 8-year-old LeAnn Rhymes. Tonight, for the first time, I get to say, ladies and gentlemen, our best act under 16, one of our regulars, 9-year-old LeAnn Rhymes.
But it was at the popular talent showcase, Johnny High's Country Music Review, where LeAnn really made a name for herself.
She would always call me, and she'd always call me Mr. Johnny. She was born, you know, in Mississippi. She'd say, Mr. Johnny, this week I want to do Crazy in B flat. She not only knew what she wanted to sing, she also knew the key. And you know what? That always impressed the band. But she'd walk up and they'd say, LeAnn, what key is this in? And she'd say, B flat.
Even though she was a star on stage, things were different at school. LeAnn made excellent grades, but she didn't always fit in with the other kids.
Everybody kind of knew that LeAnn was doing something different from what they were doing. On the weekends, they would have slumber parties and get-togethers and birthday parties, and a lot of the time, LeAnn would be working.
Well, I was always kind of a guy's girl, and maybe 1 or 2 girlfriends, close girlfriends, but a lot of girls would, you know, they egged my locker, and I had so many, like, notes saying the girls wanted to kill me, and I mean, really kind of some very, very harsh stuff that I had to deal with in my 6th grade year.
She didn't talk about it a whole lot. We just knew that she was unhappy in school.
And we just told her we thought that they may have been a little jealous, or so, you know, just hold your chin up and keep going.
None of this kept LeAnn from focusing on her dream, to become a star. She was only 9 when her parents enlisted talent manager Marty Rendelman to raise her profile.
And immediately the question comes up is, what do you do with a 9-year-old? Who's going to pay good money to go see a 9-year-old perform, and where?
But of course, she couldn't perform in any clubs where liquor was being sold. So Marty had the idea that LeAnn could sing the national anthem at sporting events. Now, everybody knows that the Star-Spangled Banner is a very hard song to sing. And yet, there was little LeAnn, 11 years old, in Dallas Stadium in front of tens of thousands of fans.
LeAnn Rimes of Garland, Texas, sings our national anthem.
It was magic. You could have heard a pin drop, and you just knew that the hair was standing up on the back of everyone's neck in the stadium.
LeAnn became a fixture at the Dallas Cowboys home games. Now all she needed was national attention and a record deal. With her father producing, she began working on an independent CD. They included LeAnn's favorite pop, country, and gospel classics, but one key ingredient was missing: a hit song.
The only thing she didn't have then and needed was the magic song, because I don't care how good you are, if you don't have the vehicle, it's not going to happen. And of course, that's where my buddy Bill Mack comes in.
Bill Mack, an influential country DJ and songwriter, had written many top country and gospel hits.
I called Bill Mack and said, Bill, do you happen to have any more #1 hits laying around?
I wasn't that interested because I thought, my goodness, 9 years old. But Marty Rendelman was a friend of mine. So I looked at my cassettes of songs, and there was Blue on an old cassette.
He wrote it for Patsy Cline many, many years ago, and she got killed in the plane crash before she had time to record it.
And it kind of broke his heart, and he just threw it in the drawer.
Despite its remarkable backstory, the song came close to getting tossed away a second time.
My dad listened to it and threw it in the trash, and I was very defiant as a kid, and I said, why did you do that? I didn't hear it. And he's like, well, it's just not right for you.
So she took the tape and began to do it her own style, and she put the ooh-oohs in it, and it came out great.
LeAnn tested out her new song in front of a crowded house at Johnny High's.
Bill Mack came that night when she sang it. And I remember seeing the tears roll down his face.
I don't know if there were any tears rolling down my cheeks when I heard her sing, but there was a lot of hair raising up on my arms. It was a happening.
Now that it's over, I realize.
She was right on perfect key, perfect pitch, and you could hear the soul.
She nailed it. It's unbelievable. And of course, then she sang it, almost every Saturday night she had to sing Blue. Everybody just went crazy over it.
LeAnn had found the magical song for her demo album. Now they had to get the world to listen and make it a hit. That was going to be a lot harder than they first imagined.
See how pretty LeAnn's hair and makeup looks?
He does it.
In 1994, 11-year-old LeAnn Rimes finally finished her independent album, All That. Her manager convinced a local radio DJ to play what she hoped would be LeAnn's breakthrough song, Blue.
And of course, the phones lit up as soon as everybody heard Blue. That right there put that kid on the map more than any other single thing, probably, because once the word's out.
Well, LeAnn Rimes just released her first album, and she's only 11.
In spite of the buzz, no record label seemed willing to sign a kid until almost a year later, when LeAnn's demo landed on the desk of Mike Curb, the president of Nashville's Curb Records.
I put on what I thought was the tape of this young 12-year-old artist and recordings she had made while she was actually 11, and it sounded like Patsy Cline. And I said, this must be a mistake. I said, this is not an 11-year-old singing like Patsy Cline. It's not possible.
Mike played it for his kids on a family vacation in a car driving, to go on vacation, and they fell in love with it, and Mike fell in love with it.
Mike Curb was even more impressed when he met LeAnn. Although he'd signed other teen stars before, he'd never seen anyone like this 12-year-old.
I mean, she had an understanding of music, the history of music. She has ears that are just unbelievable.
Mike Curb is known for his ability to recognize talent. And he saw that there was something very, very special here. So he signed her.
That was exciting, but I think still nothing ever really completely hit me of like, this is happening, because I had been working at it for so long. It just felt like the next step in this huge journey I'd been on since I was a baby.
So she went in and she recut Blue and just hit it right out of the ballpark.
In 1996, they released Blue as the first single of LeAnn's debut album, also called Blue. It was a daring choice, and unlike any other song on country radio.
Faith Hill was hitting, Tim McGraw was hitting, and they were very poppy in what they were doing, and Blue was stone traditional.
Even though it was an incredibly traditional sounding song and totally different from what was on the radio at the time, a lot of radio stations just played it, and the reaction to their audience was off the charts.
She shot off like a rocket ship because she was so young, and it was so adorable that this little girl could sing that way with such confidence, such vocal range, and she blew people away.
Blue reached the top 10 almost overnight. And before anyone could say one-hit wonder, the album's next single, One Way Ticket, shot all the way to #1, making the 14-year-old country music's hottest new star.
You just never know that you're going to hit as big as she did so quickly. So we were on a fast train and trying to keep up.
She was just, young and innocent and getting into a business that can eat your lunch in a heartbeat. And I felt for her because she was getting into something at an early age. LeAnn wanted it soon, and she wanted it then, and she got it.
LeAnn was determined to stay on top, and she would cut 2 more albums over the next year. Both of them, You Light Up My Life and Unchained Melody, sold millions of copies. Everything LeAnn touched seemed to turn to gold, or platinum. And in 1997, she was nominated for 2 Grammys, for Best Female Country Vocal Performance and Best New Artist.
At one point, when she was walking in, I could see her actually shaking.
I was terrified being at the Grammys for the first time. Lived in Texas all my life, basically. I remember seeing No Doubt on stage going, what kind of music is this? But I really didn't know. It was just this little tiny girl. I had no idea what was going on around me.
And the Best New Artist is LeAnn Rimes.
To everyone's surprise, the little girl with the big voice won both Grammys. And one of them, the Best New Artist, hadn't gone to a country singer in 30 years.
As soon as you win a Grammy, you're on a mass appeal crossover show so that not just country audience, but a national audience gets to see who you are. And I think she became a superstar after that.
LeAnn?
Yes.
The youngest to ever win Best New Artist. Aren't you a little young to be out this late at night?
What's it like to be 14 years old and already win a Grammy?
It's wonderful.
LeAnn Rimes is the young woman with the great big voice, the huge career, and 2 recent Grammys. And once again,
After her
she's topping the
Grammy,
Billboard charts.
the world changed for her and changed for everyone around her too.
The Grammys propelled LeAnn from Nashville to Hollywood. She starred in a Lifetime movie, Holiday in Your Heart, playing a child star much like herself. Although LeAnn was only 14, she was very much in demand, even by one of the top songwriters in pop, the legendary Diane Warren.
She saw me in a restaurant in LA, and she came up to my table and said, I have these songs that I want you to record. Will you come back to my house?
I remember we demoed 3 songs that night in like an hour. 3 songs she didn't even know, and she just went through them, did like 2 takes, and her pitch was perfect, and the emotion was perfect.
How do I get through a night without you?
Warren had written the songs for the upcoming movie, Con Air. And one of them, How Do I Live, seemed perfect for LeAnn.
LeAnn went and recorded the song, did a great record, and did a video and everything. And just to make a long story short, Jerry Bruckheimer, who produced the movie, wanted some changes made to her record, which, you know, that's his right.
But the biggest change that Bruckheimer requested was one that LeAnn refused to make.
My dad was my producer at the time, and Jerry had wanted someone else to produce it. And after a long discussion with my father, I just didn't really feel comfortable with anyone producing me else yet.
So Jerry came back and said, do you mind if we have Trisha do it for the movie?
Trisha was country star Trisha Yearwood. She ended up doing the version for the movie, but Diane Warren let LeAnn keep the version she'd made.
And then I was asked to pull it from LeAnn, and I couldn't do it. And everybody was pissed off at me.
So that was my first taste of the business. And I was crying every night thinking, oh my God, this song's never gonna get heard. I saw Mike Curb, and he said, well, why don't we take this song to top 40 radio? Well, you know, country radio is gonna play Trisha's version. We're gonna release this no matter what.
So then we released How Do I Live as a pop record.
It was unheard of for two major stars to release two versions of the same song at the same time. But what happened next was even more surprising.
And both versions were hits. Trisha's was in the movie. She won a Grammy for that performance. LeAnn, to this day, is still the longest running song on the Billboard Hot 100 of all time.
It gave everybody something to talk about. And they were different versions. Two great singers.
LeAnn's version of How Do I Live spent 69 weeks on the pop charts. By now, she had a staff, lawyers, publicists, and a corporation's worth of people working for her. And she was still just in high school.
I was hoping that she wouldn't get burned out. That was my worst fear.
She told me she had 65 people on her payroll at one point, and if she didn't work, they didn't get paid. And that's an awful lot of pressure to put on a little girl.
At 14, LeAnn Rimes was living her dream. But her extraordinary success was straining what had been a close-knit family. And in 1997, her parents decided to split up after more than 20 years of marriage.
I was very close to both of them, but I knew together it just was not working. And I knew what caused it. And, you know, having to deal with your child being thrown into stardom at such a young age, and so fast. I think, you know, that was a huge part of it, but it wasn't my fault. You know, we all kind of chose it, and we all knew what was going to happen, and we all dealt with it in our own ways.
LeAnn buried herself in work, and in spite of the turmoil at home, she was always on top of her game in the studio.
When she comes into the studio, she's already digested that song thoroughly, and what she does is she really inspires the band to play because they're playing to pretty much a finished vocal. At any given time, whatever she sings could be the record. In recording, that's not the norm.
In May of '98, LeAnn released her fourth album, Sittin' on Top of the World. The title described the state of her career perfectly, as she racked up yet another top 5 single with Commitment. But becoming a hit machine meant LeAnn had little time for a personal life. Then in 1998, that changed when she began dating 19-year-old actor Andrew Keegan.
Andrew and LeAnn met when she was 15 years old. He, at the time, was starring on Party of Five, so he was a hot commodity. LeAnn had seen him in a magazine layout, and when she was in town shooting a music video, he got word that she wanted to meet him.
I'll never forget, she came off the elevator and she was wearing a country-style jacket with tassels on it, and so that was sort of a little different, being so that I was from LA and hadn't seen tassels like that before. I think that was what was so interesting about getting to know her, is that we came from two entirely different worlds.
As different as they were, Andrew and LeAnn fell for each other, but it was long-distance love until she moved to LA and straight into Andrew's arms. Not everyone was delighted.
When asked what LeAnn's parents think of him, he said, well, they like me more or less. One more, one less. And he meant that LeAnn's father was not a big fan of him.
It was really hard for my dad to let this little girl go. But it was just something that I think every parent goes through, except ours was very much, magnified in the press, and everyone was watching.
With Andrew by her side, LeAnn embraced the LA lifestyle. But some of her fans began to wonder whether the child star was growing up into just another spoiled Hollywood celebrity.
We knew her as this cute little girl with poofy hair and dresses like she'd just gone to church on Sunday morning. And then she hired an LA stylist, and all of a sudden we saw this totally different LeAnn. She would spend money on Gucci, Prada, she bought jet skis, 4 Harley Davidsons. She even went out and reportedly bought 2 thoroughbred horses for more than 6 figures.
Suddenly there were a lot of people around her, a lot of new people, and some of the new friends were the right people to be around her, and some of the new friends were there because she was LeAnn Rimes, the star.
That was probably when my life was under the biggest microscope, and people were watching the most that they had ever watched.
The media scrutiny got worse in 2000, when LeAnn became embroiled in lawsuits against the people who had helped make her a star.
She sued her father, who was originally her manager. She sued her former co-manager, Lyle Walker, and then at age 18, she sued her record label to get out of a contract that she had signed with her parents at age 12 that she claimed she didn't understand.
I think she wanted independence more than anything else. And I think that's really what it was. It was a real declaration of independence on her part.
Her father, Wilbur, reacted with a countersuit that brought out a side of LeAnn that few had seen.
A judge ruled against her, and she turned to her father and said, I hate you. Her father later said he was confused and upset by the outburst, but he also said LeAnn should be made to honor her word.
We all say things that we don't mean, and in the heat of the moment, of course, that comes out. But I never hated my dad. I just wanted a dad. I guess I just really disliked where he was in my life. I just wanted him to be my father.
Meanwhile, LeAnn continued to chase hits, teaming up with Diane Warren again to sing 4 songs for the Coyote Ugly soundtrack. One of them, Can't Fight the Moonlight, became a #1 hit in Europe.
Can't Fight the Moonlight was a pop hit, but I'm not sure how many of the people who liked it knew who was singing it. She kind of lost her professional identity in a certain way.
In the U.S., the song peaked at 71 in 2000. At 18, LeAnn's career seemed to have stalled. And in the spring of 2001, her relationship with Andrew Keegan ended after 3 years together.
Having separate schedules, it was really tough to maintain a relationship, and a healthy relationship, And as a kid, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing when you're dating. When you're dating a million miles apart, there's jealousy and insecurities and different things that just totally ruin relationships.
I think, there's a point that sort of relationships run their course, and I think that's essentially what happened. I mean, the whole experience was beautiful, as complicated and as difficult as it was.
LeAnn desperately needed a change in her life. It was during this tumultuous time that she hosted the 2001 Country Music Awards and met the man who would become her husband, dancer Dean Chermain.
There's no escape from love. Once a cherry breeze, we just fell upon your heart.
And he danced behind her and helped choreograph her performance during what I consider probably one of the most down moments of her life.
It was just a time for happiness. It was something had to give, something needed to change for her. When she met Dean, he seemed to feel a lot of that for her. He was very interested in making sure she had what she needed and that she was taken care of.
She has a magnetism about her that you're immediately drawn to her. She's just a person that you want to get to know.
and she has a smile that just lights up a room. It's one of those people you just gravitate to.
With Dean's support, LeAnn was ready to repair the other relationships in her life. In December of 2001, she decided to settle her differences with her record label.
LeAnn was so honest. I mean, she said she had talked to other record companies, but she also made it clear that she wanted, she was a woman now, and she wanted to do it her way. She didn't want to be treated as a girl.
And then they reached a settlement, and they gave her the kind of creative freedom that she was really seeking at that point. And she turned around and re-signed with them.
Energized and determined to prove she could make a hit record again, LeAnn began working on a new pop album called Twisted Angel.
Probably my biggest hits, How Do I Live, I Need You, Can't Fight the Moonlight. It was all on pop radio. I thought, why not try to really actually make, an album that leans a little bit more that way?
By 2002, 20-year-old LeAnn Rimes had found happiness with her new husband, Dean Shermay. And now she was ready to start over artistically with a pop album called Twisted Angel.
The Twisted Angel album, which was really her first full-blown pop album, was the album that she had so much creative control on for the first time. And she was a producer on that album. She wrote 4 of the songs. She went to a songwriting camp and worked with all the writers and just sort of spilled her guts to them and said, this is my life. This is what I've been through.
The title song alone, Twisted Angel, that she wrote, that describes pretty much what she was going through. An angel that was being twisted and turned in all these different directions.
Twisted Angel charted new ground artistically, but it wasn't the commercial success she'd hoped for.
Country radio kind of backed away from wanting to play my music, and people, they weren't sure whether or not I was country anymore. You have to think, it's like, as a teenager, I wanted to experiment. I grew up listening to so many different types of music. I didn't know any boundaries with music.
After 5 years in LA, LeAnn and Dean moved back to Nashville in 2003.
I think that LeAnn could see, okay, I'm looking a little bit further down the road. If I'm going to pick somewhere to live and start my life and start my family and start my marriage, where's the best place to do that? And Tennessee just made sense.
I think moving back to Nashville makes a huge statement. When you actually physically live in Nashville, it sort of indicates your intentions are honorable when it comes to country music.
I didn't do the whole I did the whole 2 head voice things. I didn't do the...
Okay, let's do it.
I don't think I did. Yeah, one more time.
And for her next album, This Woman, LeAnn did head back to country.
It was an album to kind of take that step in the direction back into country radio and the country world and making country music on my own terms.
This Woman shot straight to number 3 on the album charts, and it generated 3 top 5 hits. LeAnn Rimes was finally back.
The first single was a top 5 single. The second single went to number 2, and the third single off this album went to number 1.
That number 1 single was Something's Gotta Give, LeAnn's first since One Way Ticket 10 years earlier.
That number 1 party, which was her first number 1 in 10 years, I could see real emotion in LeAnn because this time she did it on her own. She picked the song, she picked the producer, she picked her manager. This is LeAnn's success, 100%.
Today, LeAnn is very much accepted in the country world. I think she's regarded as finally having taken her place alongside everyone else in Nashville. She's very well regarded now.
Having won back her country fans, LeAnn set out to conquer a new audience, overseas. In 2006, she released a pop album called Whatever We Wanna that topped charts in Taiwan and the UK.
What's very interesting with LeAnn now is that she's sort of pursuing a parallel pop career. She has an album out in Europe called Whatever We Wanna. It's totally pop. You don't hear it here because it wasn't released here. It's kind of a schizophrenic tightrope to walk.
Now, LeAnn is looking to expand her audience even further. With Dean, she wrote a children's book, Jag, about a baby jaguar trying to cope with bullies. She also wants to launch an acting career and even hired a drama coach to work with her on the music video for Probably Wouldn't Be This Way.
The story is of a woman who's mourning over the loss of her lover and doesn't know if she can move on again from that. So to have to play that role, I was terrified the moment I walked in.
Probably wouldn't be this way. I probably wouldn't hurt so bad. I never pictured every minute without you in it. Oh, you left so fast. Sometimes I see you standing there. Sometimes it's like I'm losing touch.
I'd never ever acted like that before. I mean, a huge emoting day for me.
She's not afraid to jump out and try new things. And she's got a good head on her shoulders. And I'm really proud of her for that, because starting out as young as she did, she could have gone anyway, harem scarum or focusing and tending to business. And she chose to focus and tend to business.
Even her charity work seemed to reflect a more mature LeAnn. She got involved with Salute Heroes, an organization that helps rehabilitate war veterans.
Hi, I'm Simon, he said. I'm new.
She also plunged into a new role as the international spokesperson for the Children's Miracle Network.
Talking to the Children's Miracle Network about being involved, and I'm so excited to finally join the family.
After 5 years together, LeAnn and Dean are also thinking about starting a family of their own.
We talk about it constantly. We love kids. I have the same fears as any normal woman, thinking about having kids. When's the right time? And will I be a good mom? And how will I juggle my life, my career, and motherhood and being a wife?
Meanwhile, LeAnn is at work on a new album that reflects where she is in her life. It's called Family.
She is writing about her family. She's writing about her husband. She's writing about experiences. She's writing about emotions and feelings.
LeAnn, about a year ago, came to me and said, Dan, I really want to make a departure from who I've been up till now.
LeAnn is maturing into a powerful artist who is writing many of the songs for her new album, along with her husband. Collaborating with Dean has been rewarding, but sometimes things can get a little heated.
She's not afraid to tell me that I suck. And I also know when I've done something and she kind of goes, oh wow, that's really cool. Then I know it's she's the hardest person to get something past, so.
This new record is so much more intense for me and emotional for me than anything I've ever done. I'm getting so much more out of it than just making a record to make hits. I'm just exploring myself as an artist and as a person, and I think that's what's going to help me grow.
I think she's just starting. It's like now she's an adult. She's lived some life. She has something to say. It's a different whole ball of wax at this point.
People would tell me so many times as a child, they would say, when you get older, you're going to be such a great singer. I understand what they mean now because I sing from a completely different place, and they are my words. It's my heart and soul in my music, and I sing from somewhere very deep.
I think she has grown into a wonderful businesswoman, a wonderful daughter, and a wonderful wife, and who can expect anything else?
Her best work is ahead of her. She's so talented that she can do anything.
I don't know who to compare her to, but she's going to be a legend. That's as good a word as I can really come up with. I think she'll be a legend in the music business.
So you had a perfect childhood, went to the best schools, got a great job, married the ideal spouse, got rich, and are living happily ever after. Uh-huh.
My dad went to prison.
Clearly was not the best parent in the world.
We aren't perfect. The way life really happens. Biography, Wednesday and Thursday at 9, only on Bio. True story.